Here we will be going to discuss about reproduction. The main objective of this session is discussing the importance of reproduction, what is the process of reproduction, and what are the different types of reproduction, mainly asexual reproduction, and the different types of asexual reproduction. As we all know, reproduction is the capacity or it is the ability of an organism to produce their own young ones. Every organism in this world is able to continue their life in the earth only because of this process, reproduction. Otherwise, if this reproduction is not happening, what will happen? The life would come to an end. No more organism will be continuing their generations in the environment. That is the importance of the reproduction, the sustainability, the continuity of the life in the earth is possible only because of different kinds of reproduction. And there are mainly two kinds of reproductions that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Reproduction is species specific. From this picture, you can see that the human beings are forming their own young ones. The flower or the plants, they will be making their younger ones. That means it is species specific. And here we will be discussing what is the importance of DNA. We know that DNA is the genetic material. It is known as deoxyribonucleic acid, which is present inside the nucleus. And this DNA is carrying lot of instructions, lot of informations for protein making. Proteins are controlling the characters in our body. That is the importance of protein synthesis. And we are getting informations, we are getting characteristics, or we are getting the traits from our parents, we know that. The informations or these characters which is there in the DNA is transferred to the next generation. In this situation, DNA copying plays a major role. DNA is copying its another form. You can see from the picture how the DNA is replicating, right? One in the first picture it was a single strand, and in the second picture you can see that it was doubled, and the cell is divided into two equal with the duplicate DNAs. Right. So this is what the DNA copying. So all the traits, all the informations from the parents are transferred to the offsprings or the next generations through DNA copying. Any changes are happening during the time of DNA copying. So the child or this generations will be having some new characteristics in them. So any alteration is happening during the time of DNA copying means some changes can be observed in their offsprings. Is that clear now? Next topic is importance of variation in reproduction. Because of this variation, the new characteristics or the new traits are forming in that organism. Accumulation of variations after several generations results in new set of traits required for survival. Because of mutation or any other environmental factors are influencing this DNA copying and making some alterations in the sequencing, which will be bringing the formation of new traits or new characteristics in that organism, which will be helping that organism to get adapted with the surrounding or to survive the circumstances. And gene means, gene is a small section of DNA that is controlling or containing the instruction for a specific proteins. We know that the characters or characteristics in that body is controlled by the proteins. So genes are controlling the proteins. That is the importance of gene in that DNA. And now we will be discussing the types of reproduction. We know that there are two types of reproductions, the asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. The pictures are given here. Unicellular organisms, hydras and sweet potatoes. These are example for the asexual reproduction. And the human beings are making their own young ones, which is known as sexual reproduction. And from the next slide, we will be moving to the explanation of asexual reproduction. In this asexual reproduction, new individuals are formed from a single parent. So the important is here no need of two genders, only single parent is involved in this. And no sex is involved. That would mean, I have said it already, no male and female genders are involved, only a single parent only involved in this. New individuals are identical to their parent. Otherwise, we can say they are the clones. They are exactly similar to their parents. And the mode of reproduction is very much fast. Seen in amoeba, hydra, flatworms, many plants like rose, potato, onion, etc. So asexual reproduction we can see in amoeba, hydra, flatworms, and many other different kinds of plants. And moving to little more details of this asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is a mode of reproduction in which new offsprings are produced by single parent. The new individuals produced are genetically and physically identical to each other. That is, they are very, very similar to their parents. Asexual reproduction is observed in both multicellular and unicellular organisms. This process does not involve any kind of gamete fusion, and there won't be any change in number of chromosomes either. It will inherit the same genes as the parent, except of some cases where there is a chance of rare mutations to occur. This is the last sentence is saying you can see some sort of variations even in the asexual reproduction. It is in a rare case. And now we will be discussing the different types of asexual reproduction. Fission, budding, regeneration, fragmentation, spore formation, and vegetative propagation. These are the 6 types of asexual reproduction that we are going to learn in detail. And the diagram for all these kinds of types of asexual reproduction also very important. The first thing we will be going to discuss about the fission. It is a mode of asexual reproduction in which a parent undergoes divisions to form 2 or more individuals. Fission are of 2 types, binary fission and multiple fission. So the word fission means splitting into 2 or more. So it is classified into mainly 2, binary fission and multiple fission. In this binary fission, example is given here in the slide is amoeba. You can see that the cell, the single parent cell of the amoeba is elongating. The cytoplasm, plasma membrane and the nucleus, all the things are elongating and about to divide into 2 equal daughter cells. In the third stage, you can see that the nucleus divided in the first and later the cytoplasm along with the membrane, everything is divided and they are making 2 identical daughter cells. Okay. Binary fission means splitting into 2. In binary fission, the nucleus or nuclear matter elongates and then divided into 2. It is followed by cleavage of cytoplasm in between the 2 daughter nuclei to form 2 daughter individuals. So here you have to focus on one thing. First, the nucleus is dividing, then only the cytoplasm getting divided. Moving to the multiple fission. In multiple fission, many individuals are formed from a single individual. The nucleus of the cells divide repeatedly and producing many nuclei. Each nucleus is surrounded by small amount of cytoplasm and many daughter cells are produced within the cyst. You can see from the picture, the single nucleus is divided into many. Each of the nucleus is surrounded by some cytoplasm and the daughter cells are arranged in a cyst. Once it is matured, the cyst break up under favorable conditions and small offsprings are liberated to the outside. In plant, multiple fission is seen in many algae, and in animals, the common example for multiple fission is that of malarial parasite called Plasmodium. So this is how the multiple fission is happening. So a large number of daughter cells can formed as a result of multiple fission. Moving to the second type of asexual reproduction, that is budding. The best example for explaining budding is in Hydra. In budding, a small part of the body of a parent organism grows out as bud, which then detaches and become a new organism. From this picture, you can see that the small buds are forming, small tiny bumps are forming from the body of the hydra. The buds are elongating, enlarging in size. It's almost similar to the parents. They are growing and developing. Once it is matured, they will be detaching from the parent body and free from the parent body, and they are become independent. The nucleus of the parent divides and one of the daughter nuclei passes into the bud. The bud detaches itself from the parent body and become a new individual after growing to full size. In plants, budding takes place in yeast, and in animals, budding is seen in hydra and sponges. These are the example of organism who will be showing budding. These two pictures are showing how the budding is occurring in the yeast. From the above picture, it's showing the nucleus is divided first and going to the lateral outgrowths. The nucleus is divided first completely, and later you can see that the cytoplasm along with the plasma membrane is making the daughter cell from the parent body. And after, a lot of smaller buds are forming as a chain reaction. It's just like a chains of buds are formed in that parent body. And once it is matured, once it is occurred in a minimum size and all, it will be getting detaching from the parent body. And the second picture is the microscopic view of a budding in the yeast. So you can see that the small bubble-like structures are popping out from the parent cell, and later it is getting detaching from the parent body. The third category of asexual reproduction, that is spore formation. In spore formation, the parent plant produces hundreds of tiny spores which can then produce new plants. So the parent is producing hundreds of spores, the powdery type of things, and these small powdery type spores are able to produce new plants. During the growth of the fungus, plants like rhizopus, tiny round bulb like structures called sporangium develop at the top of the hyphae. Non-flowering plants like fungi, bacteria, ferns or mosses, formation of spores is method of reproduction. So other than the rhizopus, you can discuss the bacteria, ferns or mosses. They are the other example for the spore formation. And here in the next slide, the structure of this spore formation in rhizopus is shown. And this rhizopus, you can see that the bread molds, how they are forming in a moist bread. And the structure of this rhizopus is also very important. Please mark the rhizoids and the long tube-like structures called hyphae. And at the tip of the hyphae, it will be having a ball-like structure that is called sporangium, where millions or hundreds of tiny spores are present. Once it is matured, the sporangium will be breaking and they are liberating these light-weighted spores to the environment. And they are light-weighted, of course, we know that the spores are carried by the wind and they will be dropped in somewhere in the ground. When the environmental conditions, the favorable conditions are there, then they will be growing as a new individual. This is how the tiny spores are scattered or how they are dispersed through wind and how they are growing their new individuals. And next method is fragmentation. In this process, the body of the organism, here we will be taking Spirogyra as an example. You can see the structure of the Spirogyra in the picture, the body of the organism is breaking into two more pieces, or that pieces we can call it as fragments, each of which grows into a new individual. Fragmentation is quite common in algae, fungi, bryophytes, and some marine ribbon worms. It is caused by mechanical disturbance, chemical death, and decay of all the parts, emptying of intervening cells, etc. These are the reasons for why this length of organism is splitted into different fragments. Fragmentation is common method of multiplication in green filamentous algae like Spirogyra, which is shown in the figure. Here, all the cells are capable of photosynthesis, growth, and division. Therefore, each fragments grow into new filament. Each of the fragments are able to do photosynthesis, they are able to grow by their own, they are able to divide by their own. That's why each of the single fragments are able to divide into many fragments, and also they are able to grow as a new individual. And here the microscopic view of the oscillatoria is given, which is also multiplying by fragmentation. You can see the tiny fragments are forming, and each of the small units are elongating into a complete organism. Oscillatoria forms long filament of cells which can break into fragments called homogonia. And these small fragments can grow into new longer filaments. And the breaks in the filament usually occur where the dead cells are present. That is important. In the previous slides also we were discussed, right? Wherever the dead cells are there, the breaks or the pieces are forming at the site where the dead cells are there. And next category, next type of asexual reproduction is regeneration. Regeneration is the power of growing a new organism from the lost body part. Of course, we can take lizard here as an example. It is a defensive mechanism which is seen in lizards. Whenever some predators are there, then it will be cutting its tail and escaping from the situation. Right. From the point, the lizard is able to form the lost tail again. They will be start growing the tail. This is because specialized cells are present in that part, and that cells can differentiate and grow into the new parts. Okay, in the case of planaria, the body of the planaria is cut into different pieces: head part, trunk, and a tail part. And you can see from this picture the head and the tail, right? The head is able to grow the lost middle piece and also the tail piece. The tail piece is able to grow the mid piece and the head. So from the two pieces, head and the tail, the planaria, because of this regeneration capacity, it will be able to make two complete planarias. So that is the capacity which is present in the planaria, right? Here in the picture, this is the real pictures, okay? The body of the planaria is divided into three: head, middle, and the tail. And you can see the head region is slowly elongating, and they will be making the lost part. Even the trunk region or the middle piece is making the head and the tail portion, and they are also become a complete planaria. And the tail piece you can see in the bottom part, right? So it will be elongating and making the missing head and the middle pieces, and that is also a complete planaria later. So three pieces of the planaria is able to make three complete planaria. This capacity of forming lost part from their body is known as regeneration. And now we will be discussing what is the advantages of asexual reproduction. In this asexual reproduction, we have already discussed that there is no matter of genders. Mates are not required in this. The process of reproduction is very rapid. An enormous number of organisms can be produced in very less time. A large number of daughter cells organism we can make by asexual reproduction. Positive genetic influence passed to the successive generations. That means they are very much close to their parents. Whatever positive qualities are there in the parents will be copied into their younger ones. And it occurs in various environment. These are the advantages of the asexual reproduction. Now we will be discussing what are the disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Lack of diversity. Since the offsprings are genetically identical to their parent, they are more susceptible to the same diseases and nutrient deficiencies as the parent. All the negative mutations persist for generations. In the advantages, we have told that any good qualities are there in the parents, it can be continued in their generations. At the same way, if there are any disadvantages are there, like any diseases are there, any nutrient deficiencies are there, any negative mutations are there in that parent, all these kinds of unwanted characters will be passed to the next generation. No more variations are happening, no more diversity is happening in the case of asexual reproduction. Since only one organism is involved, the diversity among the organism is limited. The variations, the occurrence of new characters, these all kinds of things are very limited in the case of asexual reproduction. They are unable to adapt to the changing environment. Like other organism who is having mutation, who is having the new variations in them, they are not that much able to adapt to the changing environment because of the lack of the adaptations. A single change in the environment would eliminate the entire species. So these are the disadvantages of asexual reproduction. So we have been discussed all the aspects of the reproduction, the importance of reproduction, how do these variations are helpful in reproduction, and what are the different kinds of reproduction, asexual reproduction, the types of asexual reproduction. And as last, we have discussed advantages and disadvantages of reproduction. Thank you.